5 signs that a 5 sensory is getting ready to commit to a 6 sensory. Disclaimer, I will give you the signs and it's good to know what they are, but don't try to push commitment onto a 5 sensory when you're a 6 sensory because they don't typically handle this very well. Having said that, we'll talk about that a little bit more in the 4th sign in this video. The first sign that a 5 sensory is getting ready to commit to a 6 sensory in a relationship is that they pay attention to the details. So what you may not know about 5 sensories when they're getting to know new people or they're dating is they actually operate on quite an automatic mode. They're not thinking very deeply about things. They're operating at a very superficial level, saying, hi, how are you? What do you do for work? What kind of relationship are you looking for, if any at all? And they ask the kind of generic questions at the beginning. And they're very much like a robot talking to probably 50 other people asking the same generic questions. However, when they start to like you and they're getting ready to commit to you, what changes is that they start picking up on details and remembering certain aspects about your hobbies or your personality or your birthday, anything that you care to mention in conversation, they will bring it up again and bring it back to you. Now, having said that, if a 5 sensory does not do this, does not necessarily mean that they are a bad partner or that they shouldn't be given a chance, because at the beginning they are quite automatic and they may not remember details about you. However, if they do start remembering details about you, it's a good sign that they're getting ready to commit to you. The next sign that a 5 sensory is preparing and getting ready to commit to you is that they are willing to put in more effort, more time, more money, more energy into the relationship of whatever relationship you have now. They're going to drive a long distance. They are potentially going to pick food up that's right for you according to your diet and lifestyle. They are going to dress up. They are going to spend a lot of time with you and text you or check in with you quite often. All of these, they can manifest in a lot of different ways, but there's some kind of investment going on. If they can't invest financially because they're not in a good place, they'll invest their time. Or if they can't invest their time because they're busy, then they'll make sure that they look good for you. Whatever that investment is, it's a good sign when a 5 sensory is investing their energy in some way into the relationship. Because again, as I've said at the beginning, they're quite automatic in the process of getting to know people. And so they'll dress maybe in the same clothes or use the same lines when they're going out to see people. But when they're putting in that extra mile, they're driving far away, or they're putting in that extra bit of effort, that's a good sign that they're getting ready to commit to you, because they wouldn't be willing to put in that effort. And if you're waiting for intimacy and they're willing to wait, that's another good sign. That's also a form of investment and waiting and patience and commitment. That can be a very good thing. My next sign that a 5 sensory is getting ready to commit to a 6 sensory is when you say you're not available or you can't do something. You have, we'll say, like a soft boundary. Let's say, for example, the 5 sensory wants to go out drinking and the 6 sensory says, actually, you know, I don't drink alcohol anymore. That's not the type of drink that I enjoy. I really prefer having a green tea or coffee or whatever is your beverage of choice. The 5 sensory is willing to compromise and willing to figure out a solution to the problem. They want to schedule something different with you, to spend time with you. They're eager to find a drink that meets your needs. Those are really good signs that they are getting ready to commit to you and they honor and respect your lifestyle choices as a 6 sensory. And when you're willing to compromise with them, I don't recommend breaking commitments on your boundaries, like what you choose to eat or what you choose to drink or going out last minute. But let's say, for example, you're both really busy. One person works during the night and the other person works during the day. And you're willing to kind of meet them halfway. Maybe you meet them at the midpoint in the evening and you figure out a specific time slot that works well for you. If they're committing to you and they're showing signs of investment in you, you can start doing things to kind of reciprocate. There's a difference between reciprocating, which is a good thing, and then stepping over the line and initiating something that's potentially stressful to the 5 sensory. And this is a very simple, easy leap that we can make by accident. So if somebody's committing to you and showing signs of potentially a relationship forming and you jump into that conversation as the sixth sensory first to start the conversation about commitment, and the five sensory person who's less sensitive, more in their left brain, isn't ready to have that conversation, that's where you've stepped over the line between reciprocation and initiating something that's stressful to them. And that can be a difficult line to manage, because on the one hand, it's good to reciprocate once in a while with the five sensory. They enjoy the effort of earning your trust and earning the relationship. However, if you're so aloof as a sixth sensory that you never reciprocate, they will question that, and they're not wrong to question that. But you also want to be careful that you don't step over that energetic line of reciprocating and then putting in more energy and effort to them that appears overwhelming or stressful to them. That's a tricky line to manage. And that's what point number 4 is about. So let's say you genuinely screw up as a sixth sensory and you bring up a stressful conversation about marriage or relationships before it's time. And the five sensory doesn't freak out about this conversation. Many people mistake that as it's okay to have the conversation and they can get away with it, but actually the five sensory is giving you grace. They really like you as a person, and actually it's a good sign that the relationship can continue. But that doesn't mean you didn't make a mistake bringing that up as a sixth sensory. You've taken a little bit of a hit to your relationship when you do that and introduced a bit of stress. Having said that, because the five sensory is really into you, they're willing to deal with that stress. And that's a sign that they're actually really a good partner and ready to commit to you. That's when this whole debate of should six sensories initiate and start the relationship, or should the five sensory start the relationship? When the sixth sensory is able to start the relationship, it's a little bit of good luck and it's a little bit of grace from the side of the five sensory. And it does happen because we're all unique as human beings. Every relationship is not a one size fits all. You can kind of get caught in a pattern as a sixth sensory where you're always initiating and starting things first, and then it doesn't feel so good because you're the more sensitive one and you're the one that really needs to be focused on your mission, not on starting new relationships. That's, I think, where I've clarified point 4, where if you're able to straddle that fine line where you're reciprocating and you're giving back what the five sensory has given to you, and you're not overdoing it, you're not overwhelming them with too much love, too much kindness, too much commitment all at once, then you've got the secret sauce to a relationship where you're really going to have a good one with the five sensory and you're going to be in really good balance. A lot of people mistake the advice to love unconditionally to mean, oh, always be the first one to give. And that's a dangerous place to be. We hear these relationship programs that tell us that, and then you hear about stories of people who give $60,000 to another person and then they never hear from them again. If you don't want to be in that person's shoes, then just be very discerning and give back what you're given, and try to have discipline not to give too much. When we give too much, that's when we sort of get into dangerous territory where we might accidentally lose the relationship by giving too much. And I think every sixth sensory has been there and screwed up in their relationships at some point in their life by giving too much. Don't beat yourself up. That happens. You know, we are generous by nature, and empathy is a wonderful quality. Like, we don't want to destroy it or get rid of it. We just want to be cautious about who we let into our life and have the wisdom to discern who's a good match for you. Pair that empathy with really solid awareness and good judgment. And number 5, the sign that really speaks the most to five sensories being ready to get into a committed, serious relationship with the six sensories is basically they're willing to bring it up. If after a certain point they haven't brought it up after a really long period of time, I think it's okay to basically let them go. Letting them go depends on how you feel about it. If you really feel hurt by a five sensory who has been behaving like they're going to commit and they haven't committed to you, I don't think there's anything wrong with really ending the relationship and potentially blocking them. You just do whatever you need to do to take care of yourself. If you're a little bit more thick-skinned as a sixth sensory, and you can handle ambiguity better, and there's no right or wrong here. If you can't handle ambiguity, then just block them and get them out of your life and meet someone new. If you can handle more ambiguity, you can let them stay unblocked on your phone list, and just let them come back into your life when they are ready to step it up. And that's good too. The more options you have open, that's a really good thing in your life, because you never know who may come back into your life 20 or 30 years later. I've had that happen, and it's crazy how long sometimes people wait. I'll even be making a video at age 80 and I'll tell you, oh, somebody did the right thing after 7 years. It's possible. Anything is possible. But having said that, for your own mental health, if you need to get rid of an option because they're just driving you crazy, that's absolutely okay, and you should get rid of that option. People who really like you and who really want to commit to you will bring up that conversation within a period of time. If they don't, then that means that they're just a friend. And actually, I've had this happen where I've had somebody show up in my life as just a friend for like over a year. And then they finally brought up the commitment conversation, but they were so scared to do it, they did it through a third party. And it was just like, I made up my mind about you like a long time ago that you weren't interested, and I moved on like months and months ago and just assumed you're in my life as a friend, so I'm not interested. That was sort of the way I decided to handle it at that time, and that was the way that I felt about it. And so it's okay to have people in your life as friends. I say after a few months, if they are talking to you but not really talking about relationships in any way, then you're just friends at most.